Susan, welcome to AskDpros, where we speak to professionals, entrepreneurs, like they come on the show, tell their story, in order to motivate and inspire others. And on this edition, I've got Susan here. She's so enthusiastic. She's a tech girl, she's into tech, building her own apps, and telling her story as well. And on this episode, Susan will tell us her story, how she started, in a way, to just give a picture on how others can start as well. And Susan, on this show, like we always do, we start from the beginning, So if you don't mind telling the listeners, the viewers, who Susan is, and how was Susan growing up as a little girl?
If I had to start from the beginning, my name is Susan Falola. I am CEO, Creative Director of JUUBIX Limited, which is a two-sided marketplace for ideas, expertise, and investment to meet, connect, and be able to scale their business ideas. So let's say you have a business idea and you need the relevant expertise as well as the investment funding needed to scale your ideas. You can come onto my platform and you are able to be matched with the relevant stakeholders to be able to do that. My journey starts from Nigeria, where I was born. I was born in Nigeria, but came here to the UK when I was 2.5 years old. I actually lost my mum at birth in Nigeria and came to the UK with my stepmom. So my stepmom raised me, and then I went to school, went through the education system within the UK. I graduated in accounting and marketing and felt the need to start my own business. I worked in various roles within the corporate sector, from investment banking, business analyst, project management, marketing, and coordinator, advocacy. So various roles giving me I would say, multi-sector expertise. So when I had all of these expertise, I wanted to utilize them in running my own business. And I was really big about diversity and inclusion. So I started an edtech company. So edtech is education technology. And I wanted to incorporate clothes, fashion for children with animation and sensory cognitive benefits. So I did this by creating a t-shirt, which has a 3D fruit, and it actually has a scent of the fruit. And when you use your phone, when you put it on the actual fruit, it actually shows your augmented reality of animation, which teaches children all about well-being, diversity, inclusion, and just, how to deal with life and what it entails. So from that, it took me like 5 years before I raised the relevant investment as well as the relevant expertise. So in terms of expertise, I needed some scientists to develop the technology behind my fashion products. So because it took me so long, I was like, wow, is this how it takes so long for the entrepreneurial journey? So I felt that it was too long. And also I felt that there needed to be a solution to help and support entrepreneurs to scale much more faster and also much more quicker. So that's where the JUUBIX idea was stemmed from.
Yeah, nice, Susan. Sorry to hear about your mom. I know how that can be for me as well. Lost my dad when I was young as well. So, I didn't really grow up with a dad. So I understand, all that. Well, running back a bit now, as a little girl, Susan, what were the things that you were interested in, motivated by, and said, I like this, I like that, I want to be, I'm driven by certain things, what were those things?
So as a little girl, I used to always be quite creative with my toys. And my mum, obviously being a Nigerian, my stepmom being a Nigerian woman, she was quite determined to actually, make me be a success. So she always used to encourage me in terms of spelling, education. So initially I wanted to be a doctor, then I wanted to be a lawyer, then I changed and, went into accountancy. From a young age, I was actually bullied at school. So that encouraged me to be even more determined and more resilient in life. But then it also made me want the finer things because obviously, even though I didn't believe the finer things were, the most important, I realized that people do they don't look, they don't look at you in the right respect if you don't have these materialistic objects. So for me, I think my ambition stemmed from that. So the reason why, I want to be successful or even to be rich is to actually be able to afford those things as well as help others, which is really important to me. So helping others actually is probably the first thing. I think people is everything, and everything is people. So if we can, as individuals help one another, I think we can get further much more quicker.
Yeah, Susan, sorry to hear that you were bullied when you were in school, but it just goes to show that people don't want to understand people, they don't want to know you, because if they know you and they know who you are, what you do and stuff like that, they will probably see a different perspective towards you, and it's so sad that, we, from Black minority, sometimes we face that, and I think people that do that, they're just losers for me. It's really
Big
sad. Now,
L's.
yeah, they're really losers, But in terms of starting your own thing, and having that idea of I want to go on my own path, I haven't been to school and doing accounting and all that. Because what's not really relationship between accounting and doing your own thing as well? Because I know you worked in the accounting environment for quite some time. Yeah, take us a journey through that. Was that fulfilling, or was that something you were just doing on the side? Or how did that all come about?
So most of my work experience was within the corporate sector. So as much as I love to wear suits and I love to go to all the city venues and events, I didn't like the lack of creativity. So I believe that the corporate sector is quite, regimented in the way that they do things, hence why they lose out on innovation. I think that creativity is very important. And I think that cross expertise, like cross functional expertise, is very important as well. So for me, working in the corporate sector was never going to be the best fit for me because even though I loved, dressing up in a suit and feeling like, very corporate like, I still missed out on the creativity and just, having that kind of creative flair where you can input your ideas. So I feel that in the corporate sector, you're not able to actually give your feedback as much as when you are, doing your own business. I feel that within the corporate sector, you're also segmented to be in certain boxes where people don't fit in boxes. They have, versatile skills that can be utilized within a workplace. So why don't we utilize those skills that they have? So for me, I just think starting my own business was very inspiring because it helped me to know that actually I work harder for myself and I don't mind to do that. When you work for corporations or companies that don't value you for the skills that you have to bring, it feels daunting and non-exciting. I feel that skills should really be valued. And I feel that even people that go to work, they are entrepreneurs because they have a skill to offer that company. So if that company is making a return on investment from the skills that they're providing, then obviously they're more important than the actual company itself. So that's that from my perspective. I think the value is in the person and not the actual business itself.
Yeah, I totally understand that, Susan. And sometimes you probably feel when you start feeling, you're just a number. You're just making up the number. Or if you're from the any minority, you feel that they're just using you to just tick their statistics. And
Exactly.
it could be really, it could be very, very frustrating. And understand how that feels because I'm also in the work environment as well. Apart from doing this podcasting, I also got a 9 to 5. And I know how things are in the office. So there are a lot of things you just don't want to talk about. You just want to just get the job done. And go back home and just and just be in your own zone, your own environment. You understand? Now, starting up a business, Susan. We all want to think about the name. We want to think about the strategies as well. why JUUBIX? Where did that name come from?
So if I tell you where the idea popped up was, I was with a group of men and they were talking about all of their escapades. So there was a Ghanaian guy, there was a guy from Zimbabwe, Nigeria, just a group of black men that were talking about all their different life journeys and their escapades. So I actually came home with a really bad headache. And I don't know, I just went into my phone. I was like, oh, connections, like connectivity is very important because all of those men, they had some kind of like connectiveness, hence why they were able to express themselves in different various ways. So I Googled connectivity and then I just started looking up all like different meanings of connectivity, etc. And I came up with all these different names, like fragmented balance, config boot, all of these like different names that I felt were going to be the name for the business.
Uh-huh.
And then I came up with JUUBIX. So JUUBIX is basically jukebox and Rubik's Cube. So jukebox, you put a coin in, you get a selection of records. But now with JUUBIX, you get a selection of stakeholders. And like a Rubik's Cube, it's all color coded and you have to get it into a mathematically, you mathematically have to keep shuffling until you get the right coordinates. So for JUUBIX, it's like you have to keep shuffling your stakeholders until you get the right formula for your business. And also because the connections are anonymous, they're only color coded. So now you limit all the bias or racism or sexism involved in actually getting involved in a project.
Okay, cool. So you're building this as a brand now, as your own thing, as your own baby, like the way entrepreneurs say, that's my baby,
Yeah.
you can say that, But what are the challenges you've faced, in building this thing now, because obviously we know it's not an easy road, the entrepreneurial journey, it's not easy, I can say that for one, but what are the difficulties you faced, and can you tell us how you've also, the solutions you've actually, found to actually take care of those difficulties?
Yes. So what I did business back to front, and I believe that's how business should be done going forward. Obviously, I started with the idea, the concept, and then I started, an R&D journey. So I believe R&D is very important in developing any solution or any business idea. Actually going to the relevant customers and actually asking them what are their needs and actually presenting them the proposal of what you think the solution is and actually getting their feedback. I think that's a really important stage. So that took me over 2 years. And I was able to write a thesis in regards to the JUUBIX proposition. So from that, I was able to validate the idea because I was able to actually communicate with over 36 collaborators from, a diverse background, a diverse age, as well as diverse sectors. So that gave me a conclusive research to be able to know that this idea, JUUBIX, is actually relevant to the customers that I'm trying to propose it to. So for me, the barriers I faced is actually the technical development. So obviously I'm not technical. I'm from accounting, finance background.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was more from a technical standpoint. So having developed my technical knowledge in the last 2 years by doing what JUUBIX does, so talking, speaking, gaining knowledge, I've been able to build the architecture. So like, when you build a house, you have the architecture drawn out, how you're going to do it, what components you're going to use, etc. I have done that. But in terms of actually coding, building the technical components of the application, this is something that I'm struggling with at the moment. So what I've done now is obviously try to speak to some Microsoft experts because I'm actually a Microsoft partner. So I'm trying to see if I can get them involved from a technical standpoint, if they believe in the project, to see if they can assist in some way. I actually have a free meeting this afternoon with different people from Microsoft,
Mm-hmm.
which I was able to obtain on Friday afternoon. So that was quite good.
Okay, cool. So, you've talked about challenges now, and what would you say to someone that wants to go into, sort of things you're doing as well? Like, people tend to have that idea to say, it's an easy road. I will just jump in here and just do it. Now you have that experience. What would you say to someone that wants to go into the same thing you're doing as well, or something different? What would that advice be?
Use JUUBIX. I mean, for me, I think it is, a really hard journey. Hence, my proposed solution. I really don't think it's an easy journey, entrepreneurship. I feel that it needs to be easier because everybody has an idea and everybody has a skill to bring to the table.
Mhm.
So if, you know, the solution that I proposed actually works, I feel that will help entrepreneurs, come into the entrepreneurial space. Um, but my advice would be, prior obviously to JUUBIX being out there on the market, would be go for it. I mean, if you can believe in another company, if you can wake up in the morning and go to work for another company, you can also do it for yourself. So at the end of the day, the best value is always in yourself. So when it comes to working for a company 9 to 5, 40 hours a week, unfortunately, because this company has already built itself, the value that is attached to yourself and your skills is not as much as when you actually work for yourself. But I know the barriers of funding, so hence why I can understand the constraints that people have to actually just go out there and just do it on their own, because they're gonna, where do I get finance? How much is it gonna cost? So I think it's really important that there's a solution that actually gives that from the very get-go of an idea. So as soon as you start an idea, you know how much liquidity is involved to get the relevant expertise and actually get the relevant operational logistics going to be able to scale the idea. Because you can start a business today and say, oh, I just want to build a website. You build a website, £200, £300, 3 grand. And then later on, you realize that actually the website needs updating, continuous updating, legal costs, accountancy fees, depending on your expertise. So these things are all expenses that people do not understand once they start an entrepreneurial journey. So it's really important to factor that in before you even start, that there will be finances that you've not actually thought about prior to starting.
Yeah, absolutely, Susan. And to add to that as well, like it's also good to, like, have something on the side, like you have a day job 9 to 5, and you're kicking your side also. Because some people tend to just have that illusion that, I love this thing, I want to do it, I want to just go all in. But you're forgetting the bills to be paid. You also need to live as well. you know
Yeah,
so so sometimes the whole idea of doing that, because for me, for one, I can say that I've done that before. There was a time when, I just left my job, and I wanted to just go back to Nigeria and start a business, and I haven't said that, also have a family in the UK as well that I also need taking care of. I didn't just understand how all that's going to come about, but I took that route, and it wasn't an easy journey. Trust me, it was. It
so,
wasn't an easy
so
journey.
for me, I don't actually have a 9 to 5. I work for some small, medium companies. I do accountancy on the side. Um, but I do think that also having a 9 to 5 and having a business is really hard. I mean, like, especially depends on what kind of business it is. That's another thing. So obviously, like, if it's a business that's quite intensive, I would believe that having a 9 to 5, I mean, you've seen it exactly then, right? Where the entrepreneur goes, pitches, for the
Yeah, yeah,
investment.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they're like, yeah. So if I invest in you today, and he's like, oh, yeah, but I've got my 9 to 5. And they're like, you don't believe in the business, but you want me to believe in the business. But then you've got the other dragons as well that are like, well, why should he leave his business? I mean, his
Yeah,
job when
his job. Yeah.
he hasn't made enough money to leave. So I think there's two sides to the coin. So depending on your situation, of course. I mean, if you have a lot of bills to pay, finances that you've already, signed up to prior to starting your business, then definitely have it all figured out prior to starting your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, absolutely, Susan. So as an entrepreneur now, Susan, and you're on this journey now, you're on this path now, what would you say is the best advice you've gotten so far?
Best advice: focus. Always focus, because what it is, it's with creativity and innovation. You can just keep being so creative. You can just I just want it all, right? So you have to start somewhere. So I think focus is a really key word. So, don't start thinking how amazing it would be to have, all of these different parts. Stick to one part, make that good, and then build on that.
Absolutely. Speaking about creativity, and staying focused as well, what inspires you to be more creative, as an entrepreneur?
People. I love people. I mean, I think the future I see is no education. I believe that we can educate ourselves peer to peer. I believe that actually participation peer to peer goes along a lot more, it has a lot more weight attached than actually sitting 30 people in a classroom or sitting 30 entrepreneurs in a workshop. I think that it's a lot more about participation, collaboration, and insights. So, if you are able to speak to the relevant expertise that can offer you the right insight at the right time, then you actually will have less barriers to face.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just mentioned people now, in terms of building that, as a business person, as an entrepreneur, what's your take on relationship in business?
So I think there has to be a personal side to it. I think people need to be able to feel comfortable enough. All the collaborators I've worked with, they've felt comfortable enough to talk to me about their personal issues, their professional issues, as well as even their intimate issues. I think for me, because I am very open to listening, and I think listening is a really key part. So even as much as I strive to be a leader, I strive to be a billionaire. I still think that listening is a key trait that I have that benefits me in the long run. So I feel that people should listen to people, especially if they're going through certain issues. Even within business. I mean, I've dealt with numerous collaborators. Sometimes, there's deaths in the family, there's illnesses, etc. I've dealt with collaborators that had mental issues, but I've not been judgmental. I've not been, I don't want to work with you. I think judgment really decreases participation. And once someone feels judged, they will have a lack of interest. So even if they work for you, they will not be able to contribute 100% because they feel that you ultimately judge them. Even from a religion perspective, obviously the various sexualities, it's up to the person what they want to do. As far as, you value me as a person and I value you as a person, and you don't want me to change and, I don't want you to change, I think that increases the performance in everyone.
Yeah, absolutely, Susan. And one thing I just picked now is being also diverse, in the business environment, trying to include everybody. It's got to be an inclusive environment as well. In the course of building your business, your brand, JUUBIX, how have you dealt with those situations, in terms of you want to include everybody, but sometimes it's hard to do because you're thinking to yourself, oh, should I approach or should I not approach? Do I want to include this person? But in terms of in the entrepreneurial environment, building the business, how important is diversity in that environment?
So important. It's the one important thing. For me, obviously, I know there's various analogies that narratives that people put out there now, like black in tech, women in tech. For me, I do feel that it has a level of exclusion to it. I understand the concepts, but I believe that, you know, if I go onto a platform that says women in tech, obviously, yeah, I'm great, I feel great. But if a man goes on that website, he feels excluded. Same if you put like black in tech, it, like excludes numerous of races, right? So for me, I feel that inclusion means no barriers to entry. So if you know, limit it or you equate it to a specific segment of people, that is excluding others. Um, so inclusion for me means that I talk to anybody, anywhere, anytime. I don't exclude people for their looks, their perspective, or their values. Um, and I talk to everybody. So don't get me wrong. I mean, I've been in situations where I'm the only black person in the room, and I don't feel intimidated by that. I actually feel unique. So for me, I understand that there might be other people that maybe don't have my strengths. So I definitely have considerations for them. But for me, I've never actually had that issue, especially with men as well. So when they say, oh, women, so in the workplace, when I've been in the workplace, I've actually got along more with men than women. But in latter years now, I've seen how women have really empowered me, especially my friend group, which they have been amazing, amazing support to me. So for me, I have both sides. I have a female friend group, I have a male friend group, and I feel that that also gives me a wide perspective. So I think, yeah, the limitations is when people put people in boxes and say, oh no, women should be with women, men should be with men, or blacks should be with blacks, and whites should be with whites. I think the diversity actually encourages so much more, and it's phenomenal what it can bring to the table.
Absolutely, Susan. You know, I totally agree with that 100%. You know, but I haven't said that. You know, as an entrepreneur, and now you're on this partner. You know, what do you think are the mistakes? You know, that people in your industry, you know, make, people that are trying to build that business as well. You know, what do you think are the common mistakes that you've seen? You know, maybe you yourself you are also made as well. You know, what are those mistakes? You know.
So I feel that people try to piggy bank on other people's ideas or try to copy something that's already been done. I think being unique, being something of change, um, it really makes you have to think outside the box. You can't just like say, oh, you know, I see this working, so I'm going to make that same thing and I'm going to change the name and I'm going to. I think that there's a lot of people within my industry, which is fintech, financial technology, that, you know, talk about these ecosystems, talk about, you know, these accelerators and all of these things. And actually, the lack of diversity, the lack of innovation, the lack of value that these various things have. I feel that, you know, going forward, now that we're living in such a digital age, even though we were living, you know, living in a digital age before COVID, now it's even more paramount that we look at these things in a different way, you know, in terms of recruitment, in terms of education, and in terms of innovation. So these three aspects going forward, I think will seriously change over the next 10 years. So education as we see it now will not be as we see it in the next 10 years. In terms of my, you know, things that I've had to learn from, delegate. I find it really hard to delegate. So I have a team, but because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, I think, and then also because my vision is very clear. So if I don't see my vision when I give a task, I tend to want to do it all myself. So this is another thing as an entrepreneur. Please learn how to delegate because you will be left with a large workload.
Yeah, absolutely, Susan. You're right. You know, but go back to what you just said now about people need to innovate and people need to, you know, bring up new ideas. You know, but some people will also argue, oh, Susan, you know, there's nothing new under the sun. You know, like all ideas are they are there already. You know, but they will say, oh, it's just to make it better. Like for example, you know, there has been taxes. forever. Then taxis and limo and whatever forever. But Uber came along, and made that a better idea. So would you say that, instead of copying other people's idea, word to word, would you say they will probably just innovate, and make that idea better?
Yeah, I mean, I think Uber and the taxi service is very different though. I think it is totally different in terms of like taxis is usually was a calling thing. Now they've made it a technology thing. So it's a totally different sector of services in tech, and then services on a mundane level where you call up or where you obviously put your hand out for a taxi. I think the key word is accessibility, and people, want accessibility, convenience. Hence why people are even ordering just milk from the shop, and the Uber man is coming to collect it. We've seen in McDonald's and various shops that actually drivers that come to pick these items up are more important than actually the customers that are within the shop. So I think, and also in terms of the tracking, so even drivers, they have to like move faster, right, to like get to certain places so that their ratings won't drop. It's similar to how JUUBIX would work in terms of business. Accessibility is so important going forward. Um, there's like 1.7 billion customers that are unbanked in the world globally. So if accessibility to funding, finance, services were available in a way that is quite unique, then the customer loyalty, customer base will be much more deeper. In terms of Amazon, Google, these companies are very big, but they could be bigger. Choosing to buy out small companies is not actually choosing to opt for innovation. They're just buying out the small companies, but still sticking to the same strategy. When you are an entrepreneur, you realize that your business has to change every 5 minutes, because the reason why is because technology has it's evolved so much that there's new changes every day. So you have to be rapid. You have to keep up to those changes. So if businesses choose to just stay in one lane, they actually doing themselves a disservice. Going forward, they actually have to be rapid, interchangeable, and able to adapt.
Yeah, Suzanne, good. Accessibility is key, and I think I should just throw one thing into it again. Time as well is key, because most of these services that happens, apart from being accessible and all that, you're also trying to save time as well. It's now people see it as speed. The other day I was getting an order from Amazon. Normally Amazon will tell you the following day, right? And I've got Prime, and they're telling me like 3 days time. I was like, oh my, what is it? So why am I paying the time? Why am I paying Prime for? So I think it's speed, time, accessibility as well. Which is good. I'm talking about technology and all that. Now the whole world is all social media, internet. Because I can remember, a couple of years ago, we were not in this position. Things were not as fast as this. What's your take on social media, in reference to innovation and technology as well?
So since COVID, we've seen the drum up of people creating food cuisines from home. I don't know if you're aware of that. There's a lot I hope they've done their food regulations. So what we've seen, a lot of peer-to-peer businesses start happening, within the COVID period. Because what happened, back in the day, before I was born, probably before you were born, it was a bartering system, right? There was no middleman. And now, unfortunately, because of the middleman, it actually creates a lot of injustice for certain segments of people. So there's no trickle down effects. We are the economy. People that spend money, that pay for assets or pay their bills or whatever. We are the people that are done the injustice to, because all of those big corporations, the rich people, as far as they're concerned, they've worked hard to get to where they are. So they don't care about all of the trickle down effects to help others, because as far as they're concerned, you need to work hard as hard as I work. But really and truly, this COVID-19 has actually taught us that the key workers in society are the nurses, are the bus drivers, are the,
At the bin, at the bin guys.
exactly. So the everyday average Joe. So, it's really important to factor that in going forward. That if we, as a global community, could lock down ourselves during this pandemic, then as a global community, we can attach ourselves to these 2020 goals that we already have put down on paper. Let's not talk about it. Let's do it. And let's, create a better life, a better environment, and a better, better opportunities for people around the world. No one said everyone's going to be rich, but at least, everybody will have bread and butter, right, to eat on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, Suzanne. Love that. I also love what you're doing as well. Now, you know, what is that thing that sets you apart? Like we JUUBIX, and someone is listening to you and you're trying to sell yourself and say, this is me, Suzanne, and this is JUUBIX, and they're looking at you as maybe potential investors. You never know. What is that one thing that sets you apart, from other innovators and other entrepreneurs as well? What is that one thing?
Passion. I haven't been paid for JUUBIX in the last 2 years. So I would say passion is a very important thing. Definitely. I mean, my passion for people and creating opportunities for others. So for me, it's not about how much revenue I'm going to make. It's more about the recognition to help others. That is really the most important thing for me. I mean, obviously everyone needs finance, but for me, if I can help, 100,000 people around the world, I mean, that would be very rewarding. And I would feel, my legacy has been done. For me, I'm so passionate about helping everybody. I feel that we can have equality. Equality does not mean that everybody's going to be on the same, playing field. Equality means that people have access to equitable opportunities. And when I say equitable opportunities, equitable meaning that I'm not just going to give you £100. I'm going to give you something where you can work for that £100. So that person also feels that they have actually done it for themselves. So it's not about charity. It's about offering equitable opportunities for everybody.
Yeah, love that, Suzanne. And helping others cross to the other side as well, can be very powerful as well, because we have to be, our brother's keepers,
Mm-hmm.
to say, and we also have to have that empathy, love, just try and be there for one another and try and, give so much value, because I know what you're doing as well, you're also giving value as well, which I really, really commend, it's good. And now, if someone wants to get in touch with Suzanne, like who Suzanne is, how to find Suzanne, where's the best place for them to get in touch with you?
So you can get me Susan Falola, or Falola, as the Nigerians would say, on
they,
on
they,
LinkedIn.
they will say you want to use your phone here to block our ear
Yeah,
now, please.
you can get me on LinkedIn, or you can get me on info at JUUBIX, JUUBIX.co.uk, and that's my email details. Yeah, so just definitely get in contact. You'll be able to see the various updates via our JUUBIX page, via my personal LinkedIn page, and you'll be able to also get various updates via our YouTube page, which is also called JUUBIX, JUUBIX.
Cool, Suzanne. So what would be the last thing? Someone's listening, and the last thing for them to take away from this, like Suzanne said, and I'm going to hold on to this forever. What would be that thing?
Determination is key, and
Mm.
success is fulfilling.
Say that again. Say that again.
I said determination is key and success is fulfilling.
Cool. Love that.
And I just want to plug AskPros.
Suzanne, it's been a nice conversation so far. Love it. Love what you do. You're doing a very wonderful job. I know it's hard. But 2 years on the line now, you're not getting paid for it. You're still doing what you're doing because you love what you do. You love your journey. You love the process, and you love the story as well. And I'm grateful for your time. Grateful for the fact that you came on the show. Shared your story and your journey with us. And hopefully this will inspire and motivate someone out there. Thanks for the time, Suzanne. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Take care, guys.
Yeah.